All right, cool. We are here for the Educational Freedom Institute podcast. Of course, we have the co-hosts, myself, Corey DeAngelis, and the founder of the Educational Freedom Institute, Matthew Nielsen. And today we have joined with us Shaka Mitchell. He's the Tennessee State Director at the American Federation for Children. Thanks for joining us today, Shaka.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Welcome.
Yeah, could you get a little bit of a background about how you got into school choice, what's made you really interested in it, and just a little bit of that history?
Yeah, definitely. I got into school choice because I said, what is something that I will do that everybody will love and nobody will ever critique and have any problems with, and they'll throw ticker tape parades when you do a good job. And so I said school choice, obviously.
That's it. You got it.
Picked the right thing. I picked right. No, I mean, I think for most of us, though, who work in and around education, there's always kind of a personal aspect. And for me, I grew up in New York. I grew up on Long Island, and the schools that we were zoned for these were abysmal schools. Some of the least safe schools in the state, and that's not where my mom wanted to send her kids. And so we managed to put it together, and I went to a Catholic school, kindergarten through 8th grade. And what I would say is that's one form of school choice, right? The ability to come out of pocket when your zone school isn't meeting your needs and you pay for it. That's one form of school choice. Then we took part in the other form of school choice, and we got a U-Haul, and we got on I-95, and we moved all the way down to the Atlanta suburbs, right? And that's the other form of school choice. People who can move to a different area, where we then attended public school. I then attended a public high school. And by the way, I enjoyed both my, private school education and my public school education. But I think even then it just planted the seed for me of, okay, there's a lot of kids who don't have the ability to access a quality education that works for them via one of those two avenues. And so I just got very interested in it, and then, fast forward, now I'm a parent. And so now I'm also trying to figure it out for myself and for my kids, and what's working for each one of them. So.
Yeah, Shaka, I think the last time I've seen you in person was before the pandemic in Memphis, right?
Yeah, Memphis.
University of Memphis.
Yeah. For
a little school choice conversation there. Yeah, so it's good to have you. I mean, it's really good to have you on this podcast. But the title of this is Better Than Normal. Because a lot of people are talking about getting back to normal after all this blows over. What is this whole idea of better than normal? What's kind of this initiative that you've been kind of leading with over at AFC in particular in Tennessee?
Yeah, I mean, this is our effort, I think, to zoom out a little bit, and what I would say, I mean, I know that there are a lot of folks who watch this and who follow what you guys are doing at EFI, and also just some of your other writing and stuff. And it's easy to think, hey, let's say I'm a supporter of school choice. I think it's easy to see how all roads lead to that, right? But honestly, and again, I mean, and you guys can push back, but I don't think that people immediately say, oh, you know what? We're in a global health pandemic. You know what I really need? A means tested tax credit scholarship, right? That's too attenuated. But that being said, I mean, almost everybody's talking about education in some form or fashion. Is it whether is it safe for teachers? Is it safe for kids? Who's getting vaccinated? Whatever, PPE, all this stuff. And so we did feel like, hey, what's clear is that there's education is top of mind for everybody, and not everybody needs the same solution. And so that's the thing, right? We said, all right, let's have a conversation about that. And let's also, that theme of better than normal, what it came from is really talking to parents, and we just kept hearing, they were like, I mean, do you want to get back to normal? And some would go, well, in some ways we want to get back to normal, right? Like I want to get back to pre-pandemic because I want to see my parents again in person. We haven't been able to see them in, 11 months or more. I want to see them again. There's a lot of people who want to have Thanksgiving with their parents, with their family. They don't want to argue at the Thanksgiving table, at the dinner table. So you want some parts of normal. You may not want all of it. You may want to rebuild something that's better. And I think that's even more true in the school context. Like, yeah, let's not have what we have right now, because what a lot of parents and kids are getting is just junk. Let's be clear. It's just garbage. But that doesn't mean that what you had before was awesome. So that's the conversation we wanted to have.
So that's important, right? And I think that the folks in Tennessee that you're on the ground with every day are not alone in that, right? I think there are a lot of families around the country that are saying just what you said, right? Like, well, I don't really want to go back to normal because it wasn't great to begin with. But what's interesting about that idea is that I think there are families that didn't really fully recognize that until now, or maybe even until you ask that question, right? Like, yeah, I know right now is bad. You don't like it. The kids don't like it. It's just not ideal for them. And, to be fair, there are some kids that I think are doing great in this situation. And there are. For some, this is awesome. This is exactly what they needed. But there are a bunch more where in-person learning needs to be happening. And I wonder if just asking the question in that way made them think for a second. You go, wait, well, no, back to normal is not great, actually.
Absolutely, Matthew. I think
never been great.
I mean, so like, because different families were already having different experiences, right? So for instance, you take something that we know, and I think certainly it bears. The research bears this out in Tennessee districts, but I think it's a national trend, unfortunately. And that is students of color, especially African-American boys, have much higher discipline and suspension rates than other students, right? What's so great about that? And that's the normal. That's the normal.
Yeah, you want to go back to normal on that?
Who wants to go back to
right.
that? Yeah,
right.
Exactly. And so I think take kids who are being, I don't mean to be all doom and gloom, but kids who are in a situation maybe where they were being bullied, right? Mm-hmm. They're not in that situation. I've actually heard from many families whose students have various IEPs and, learning sort of issues where a big group setting just was not working for them. Mm-hmm. And hard as it is for parents in the remote setting, they're like, you know what? My kid now needs some supervision because they're too young to be left at home all the time. But they're telling me they enjoy school. All of a sudden they're saying they like to read because now they don't have to try to read out loud and stammer through and, or have the embarrassment, whatever. So it's not, like you said, it's not, it wasn't great for everybody to begin with.
Shaka, I think you put it best in this video that I shared on Twitter today and other locations. And I'll just bring it up for this quote that really got me hyped up, especially this part of the video. I think you said something along the lines of, parents don't want to return to the same stale, static, bureaucratic way of educating kids that we've had for the past 150 years. Parents don't want to go back to normal. They want better than normal.
Yeah, I mean, we believe it. And I think that's right. Again, it is, what did I say, stale, static, and bureaucratic? Mm-hmm. Is there anybody who's saying, oh, no, that's not what the system was? It was, dynamic and innovative and entrepreneurial. That does not describe, by and large, the K-12 education system as we've had it in most states.
Yeah, I think you did hit the nail on the head there. And, in particular, a lot of the things that I talk about when it comes to the school reopening debate and just the response to the pandemic, I talk a lot about competitive pressure and incentives. But another thing in there is it's just this big behemoth system that's slow to change. And so even if the incentives are right, there's the problem of this big one-size-fits-all solution that isn't going to work for everybody, and it's a really big boat that you got to move. That, even if the incentives are right and the intentions are right, it's not going to work for every single kid.
Yeah, for sure. And in case in point, the numbers say that something like 90% of children who attend private schools are still there and are in the building and are doing the thing, right? I don't believe that private school educators and administrators, en masse are love what they're doing in a way that public school educators don't. I actually don't believe that, right? But I do believe that when you've got when you're one school, or when you're even a diocese, a network of schools, you can be more nimble and you can make it work, right? I remember speaking with a school leader here in Nashville. This is fairly early on in the pandemic, and she said, one of the things we started doing is all of the kids now in their cubbies keep a beach towel, and because we spend a lot more time outside, and so the kids are physically distanced, but we're able to get outside, and we have some reading time and lessons out there. She said, I think we'll probably keep that once it's over, because the kids really do well with that, and that's great. She didn't have to ask a bunch of permission to make that happen, and the kids have not, they didn't all catch coronavirus, which I think is also, I do want to be cognizant of health. So there's just something about the system that makes it really resistant to change. And unfortunately, that means the ones who suffer are kids who are anywhere but the exact median student. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, most kids are not the median student.
So how do we get back to better than normal? What's the solution here? I shared the video for everyone to go check out with the interviews of parents and how they would like things to be better after all of this. What do we do?
Yeah, I mean, we have a couple, again, these are pretty broad principles. So I can get as prescriptive as you want. We've got some time, I know, to talk, so we can do that. But we said a few things. We said 4 things. We said that, first of all, when people are making policy, it's got to be student centered. That's who this is about. This is about students. So, with all due respect to, educators and faculty and, vendors coming in the building, whatever, we've got to ask the question first, what's in the best interest of students? And I'll tell you, I mean, props to some of the administrators in Hamilton County, that's Chattanooga, Tennessee. I listened to someone who was from Nashville, but actually is in Hamilton County now. And they said, here in Hamilton County, our district leaders just decided to put students at the center of our decision-making. That's the driver. And it's been a vastly different experience there.
Wait, hold up. Didn't the NEA have something where they put it to a vote last year or 2 years ago that they were going to recenter all of their mission on being about children's educations and their learning, and they defeated the measure?
Did they?
New business item number 2 from 2019. Yep.
Yeah.
So Shaka, you're saying we should not take the NEA's approach and maybe take a student-centered approach.
I'm saying take a student-centered approach. Absolutely. The second thing we said is parents should be in the driver's seat. So and I'll tell you that, again, should not sound that controversial. Every time I have said that, maybe not every time, but many times I've said that to, I can think of a school board member in Tennessee, kind of a mid-size, location district. And he said, yeah, but I mean, what about all the parents who basically, delinquent parents? What about all the parents who are addicted to meth? What about them? And I said, well, 2 things. One, that is a criminal justice issue. not an education system issue. Second, you should be concerned if you think that a large swath of your parents in your district are addicted to meth, then you have a meth problem in your town. Like, you should maybe talk to the county commissioners about that. And of course he didn't. It's just this like scare tactic.
It's using the exception to prove the rule, or generalizing from extreme outliers.
Absolutely. So, but we just think that parents should be in the driver's seat, right? And that's something, I mean, hopefully he's getting some national attention. I know you've got, there are a lot of parents right now who are trying to really appeal to the new Biden administration to say, hey, like, over here, please pay attention to us. What about us? So that's a big deal. The third thing that we said is that states should fund students, not systems. And again, that's just fund students.
Not is that systems. Hey Matthew, I need one of those masks.
Oh man, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, you gotta send me some of that. Yeah, because as you know, like, these funding systems get so convoluted. And by the way, this is a place where I think you may not believe this, Corey DeAngelis, this might be a place where you and the teachers union lock arms here. But so many places, and I'll say Tennessee is one of them, where our legislature will pass a bill for, a teacher's raise, and that money never makes it into teachers' pockets. Often it gets stuck right at the district kind of administrator level. And that's where we've seen, I know in Nashville, we've seen it over the past 10 years, a decrease in the number of students, even though Nashville is like the it city. Decrease in the number of students, the size of our school the number of administrators ballooned. That doesn't make sense. And so I'm sympathetic when teachers are like, hey, where's the raise that we were promised? Hey, I feel you. Where's the raise you were promised, though? Go to the central office.
Yeah, it's not their competitors' fault. It's their employer's fault for not allocating the resources efficiently to the classroom.
That's right. And, and then you hear these like woe is me stories. I just saw a picture online today where you got like families rallying because, hey, what can we do? Kids in Nashville, some are going to start returning to school, this week, district schools. And parents were like, oh, what can we do to support schools? Can we buy PPE, blah, blah, blah. Thankfully, a principal posted a picture. I'm telling you, there had to be 80 boxes in the picture. She said, hey, we're good on PPE. Please do not send us any more. Like, I don't have any room. I don't have a place to put this. The resources are there. It's not truly a resource problem. It's how are you allocating the money?
Well, didn't Metro Nashville's Twitter account just tweet something out about the in-school childcare opportunities where the YMCA was going into the public schools that weren't open for in-person instruction, but then the private sector employees were coming in and doing it, and families were paying out of pocket.
Oh yeah. And I know that in Shelby County, I mean, you're really gonna love this. Shelby County again has been closed since district schools have been closed since March last year. No plan, as far as I know, to reopen. I mean, they're kind of they're at loggerheads with the state. The Shelby County government, so not the school district, right? But the Shelby County government opened some of its empty office space for child care for Shelby County employees. So they can have a place for their students to come. And they said, oh, and they'll be staffed with a licensed teacher who can help you. I said, you know what that sounds a lot like? School. When it sounds a lot like school. Sounds a lot like school. It's just, something you hear from parents and they say, make it make sense. Right.
Hey, but that's what the teachers unions have been saying in Chicago. Make it make sense. Oh, I can't believe you're making us go back to work. Make it make sense. It's not safe. It's too dangerous, Shaka.
I'll tell you what's too dangerous.
In Puerto Rico. We're too busy in Puerto Rico traveling over there to do in-person vacationing. We can't do in-person learning though.
That's right.
those pics on the beach, that you can't take them not in Puerto Rico.
No, that's
on
right.
a Puerto Rican beach. You have to be there.
Well, it's inauthentic.
You can't blame her. You can't blame her, Corey.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, the last thing that we said, just kind of about like what's going to get us to better than normal, is we said one size doesn't fit all. And that should be, again, like, ask anybody who has multiple children, and that should be obvious. The same thing just doesn't work. You can try to make it work, but kids need different things. Families are in different situations. It doesn't matter if we live next to one another, if the stats the same, but one size doesn't fit all. And so we got to have some solutions that are that give parents some agency, right? And let's be more nuanced than just saying. I mean, it's why I'm not going to say every kid needs to be back in the building. I don't know. How can I possibly know that? I might say that if I knew every kid.
Yeah, you don't know what's best for everybody else's children. You don't even
I have no idea. That's right.
That's the difference. The other side is saying that everybody has to be remote, but we're not saying everybody has to be in person either. We're just saying everybody should have the option.
Yeah.
To have some type of learning environment. But
one system could take care of the needs of all of the kids if it was fully funded, right?
If we just spent enough.
Yeah, well,
because that's the argument. That is the argument.
I actually asked a school board member probably a year and a half ago. I said, do you have an amount? What's the per pupil?
It's always 50% more than what we're spending.
Well, yeah, it's kind of like, what would make you happy, right? And everybody says, well, 50% more than what I make right now. Mm-hmm. She said 3x, 3 times per pupil, 3 times we have. And I said, okay, how did you come up with that? She said, well, that's what the most expensive private school in the district charges.
So that's the metric.
So that was that's as much analysis as went into it. And again, I mean, I think that very similar, frankly, to the same people who think, well, no, really, more money necessarily buys more happiness. You're gonna be really disappointed, right? You're gonna be really disappointed when all of a sudden, in Nashville, what that would mean is if we paid $36,000 per pupil, if we spent that much, I have nothing to suggest that all of a sudden the education would be 3 times better than if it is. And by the way, let's just be honest, and this is where we do need to get real and just call a spade a spade. What would 3 times better even mean? 3 times better, because I might be able to get on board if 3 times better all of a sudden meant that every kid that I saw was, becoming some Princeton bound, whatever entrepreneur, just self-actualized superhuman. That'd be pretty cool. I could probably get on board with that, actually. What we're talking about in our cities in Tennessee, can I just bore you guys with a stat real quick?
Let's go.
So Memphis just got its some interim data back, and it said, I'm pulling up, I got it right here. It said that district-wide, 28% of students scored at or above grade level in English, language arts, and math. Okay, 28%. So, again, 3 times that, we might be talking about a number that maybe some people would feel okay with, right? Talk about 84%. That's the high watermark, 28%. In middle school, only 8.3% of middle school students were proficient in English, 10.5 in math.
So remind us, Shaka, so that's insane. Number one. Number two, when was this? When is this for?
This is, let's see, this is February 1st, 2021. So 6 days ago. This was
6 days ago.
we got this data by this is how our kids, these kids have been in a remote environment, right? Probably with connectivity issues. I mean, I've got 1 gig fiber and I have connectivity issues.
Right.
Because I'm one of 5 people in my household sometimes trying to get on a Zoom, because all my kids are, my wife is, the whole thing. But yeah, so just 8.3% proficient in English.
Do you recall if that has gotten worse this year than it was last year?
I believe that is worse, but we're talking about at the margins, right? We're talking about,
it could be 50% worse, but it's still
unbelievable.
Yeah, 50% would mean that we started at 13%.
Yeah.
And that's what it's like. These numbers, they can be like eye-popping, but think about this in real human terms. You're saying that that less than 1 out of 10 children that you pass by, less than 1 out of 10 tweens that you just meet in Memphis is proficient in English. Like what kind of future do we think awaits kids? It's not okay. It's really not okay.
And so,
it's horrible. There was a study that came out in the past 6 months. I'm going to find it real quick and I'll post it in the comments. But it said that something like 25% of the kids that are currently in school, in air quotes, in school, right now, will never make up for the time that they lost, even by the time they get out of high school, right? Even if they go back to normal. Yep. I'll find it. I'll find the study. I'll post it here. But these are the kids we're talking about, right? And these are kids, we've all seen them. If you've ever visited a school where the majority of the population is underprivileged, you visited a Title I school that isn't targeted. It's a Title I school. And you've seen those kids running around. And those are the kids that 25%, 1 in 4 of those kids will not make up for the time lost, even by the time they get out of high school.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Was this the nationwide McKinsey and Company analysis, Matthew? That was.
It might have been. It might have been. I'm going to find it here real quick.
I think, I mean, just sorry to Corey, just to jump in on one more point there. I mean, I think I'm kind of I think it's really helpful to, when people think about this stuff, and does it matter, like to personalize it too, right? So if you're a parent, if you've got 2 kids, so think about your 2 kids, think about their friends. Which of these 4 kids are you okay with not being ready? Which one, right? If you're a family and you have 4, which one, right? I mean, the proficiency rates in Nashville indicate that only 1 of my 3 girls is going to be ready for college or career. Which one do I deem worthy of a future that's worth all the time that her mom and I are putting in? Which one? No parent wants to make that choice, and they shouldn't have to, because it should not be a game of chance. This should be, we can do better. And in many of our systems, we do better, but education has lagged like we're still back in the daggone industrial revolution.
And a lot of times, if you're assigned to a failing school, it's even worse than that for particular families. It could be, well, the stats say that all 3 of my kids are in this school. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of inequities that are within that current traditional public school system that a lot of people don't realize. And I think your latest op-ed really hits on this. And I want you to kind of go over the main points in this op-ed here, which set the Tennessean. I'll put in the chat for everybody to go check out. But the name of it is Why Education Savings Accounts Are the Great Equalizer for School Children.
Yeah, thank you. So I've wrote that with Justin Owen, who's the president CEO of the Beacon Center, which is an organization here. They do a lot of research, but they're also they've got a litigation arm, a legal arm here in Tennessee. And we wrote this because, and this is some exciting news that just happened last Thursday, the Tennessee State Supreme Court agreed to take up this case to determine whether or not this new education savings account pilot program is constitutional. We believe it is. And we think that the court now has the opportunity to affirm what the legislature did, what the governor, helped pass, and really do something big for, even in its, like in this small kind of pilot scale, we're talking about 15,000 students. And 15,000 students, again, if yours is one of those 15,000, that's a real difference. That is changing the trajectory for maybe for families, maybe for generations to come. So yeah, we think there's a huge opportunity to do what, as you guys know, many states have already affirmed and many courts have already affirmed.
Yeah, hopefully those other states and the cases that help them win their, in their situations will help you guys there in Tennessee and the kids, the students of Tennessee. Yeah.
So real quick, what is an education savings accounts for people that are just now jumping in and don't know the ins and outs of those?
Yeah. No, that's a good question. It's easy to get jargony. So an education savings account, what it does is, in Tennessee's case, would take the state spending, which works out to be about $7,300 per pupil. And because there's state, local, federal spending, right? 3 different types. But it would take the state portion, which is about $7,300. And for eligible families, they could apply to get this amount of money in an account. And then they could use the account for tuition at a private school. They could use it, if there's money left over, they can use it for other educational expenses, right? Which that could be tutoring. It could be the technology that come, right? Everybody.
So it's would it be like on a debit card?
It's actually not even on a debit card anymore. It's all online. Everything's moved. So it basically goes into like this online kind of account, like a wallet, kind of like if I gave you an Amazon gift card, it would just sit there. Which I've got to say, I'm going to nerd out for a minute here, but I actually think there's a huge research opportunity there for folks who take it over time, because you could have a whole lot of data to see like spending habits and how students are doing over time. Like again, I'll leave that to you big brains, but there could be some cool stuff there. But really what it does is it just gives a family the power to use those dollars and find a school fit that works. That's really fundamentally what it's about.
Yep. So I could use the online money to go shopping at my favorite restaurant, or
only if it's Crab Fest, right? Lobster Fest, which is the best time of year. No, actually, again, because it's online, this is way more secure even than the debit card or kind of the reimbursement. It's more or less cumbersome than the reimbursement process, right? Because it's online, and so the vendors are basically preloaded in there. So it's even secure enough so that, for instance, I know some states have it so that you can go to Best Buy, right? Best Buy is a vendor. You can go to Best Buy, but you can't buy a PlayStation 5 at Best Buy. I know, sorry.
Educational. I'm learning.
But you can buy, right. So sorry, no PS5, but you can buy, a Chromebook. And by the way, you can't buy 10 Chromebooks because we're not setting up like an arbitrage situation. Mm-hmm. You can't buy 10, but you can buy, you can buy one, whatever. So it's actually very secure. And again, gives some flexibility. And so that passed in Tennessee back in 2019. Kids should have been using it already, but the districts, or I shouldn't say the districts, the local cities, so Nashville and then Shelby County, challenged the law in court, saying that if you can believe this, talk about victimization. they said that the cities, were unfairly targeted by the state legislature. And like,
okay, then support a universal program.
yeah, that's right. Yeah,
They won't. They'll say, "Oh,
Yeah.
I don't want that either."
that's right.
Right.
And I sort of want to say, like, you want to talk about who's been unfairly targeted?
The families.
The 200,000 kids between these two districts with, really skinny chance of success. The 70+% of graduates from Nashville who still need remedial coursework when they get to college.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's the basis of their constitutional claim, right? They're saying that this is being forced on these particular locations. And then our response is no family is being forced to use this program at all. Every single family has the opportunity to opt in or not. Is that kind of?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, they're sort of, for the cities and the counties, it's all about the money. They say that this is basically the state is trying to force us, tell us how to spend this money, and we don't want to do that. And I think what the
state already does that, doesn't it, with the state education funding?
Well, it's the state dollars, A, but B, you actually have to do nothing. You have to not do something. You have to not educate somebody. Hold on one second, guys, because I'm going to make sure that I'm plugged, that I'm getting a little thing here saying that I need to plug in. So,
okay, we hear you perfect.
I just want to make sure I don't die here. Hold on one second.
Oh, you need a charge. You need to charge
the battery. So I have a question.
When he comes back.
Can you still hear us while you're plugging in?
All right. Sorry about that.
Oh, no, good. Now you can hear us.
Right. So yeah, I mean, the program asks literally nothing of the district, because we're saying, no, what you don't have to do is you no longer have to pretend to educate these kids.
I like that.
Because that's what you've been doing. You're pretending to educate them. You've not been educating children. You're pretending to.
So I have
now
a question
we can
for you.
Get that up. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That makes sense. So here's a question. Does that program, is any funding local funding? Because they could say, well, it's, you're getting local tax dollars, because most aren't, right? I mean, we know most ESA programs are strictly state funds, and that's it.
Yeah.
So I don't know how your program there in Tennessee is. Do you know, do they take in local dollars, or is it strictly state?
Yeah, this is the state portion.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There is a local optional portion that is not touched, that is likely to still be spent, which ends up meaning more money per pupil for the kids that remain in the system.
Right.
But
they keep that. Yep.
Yeah. And then here's the other thing. There's actually a fund established. There's a 3-year tail that goes back and provides grants to the district that the student just left. So
hold harmless provision.
Yeah. So this is like a kid, moving away, right? Going to college in another place. And the kid actually sending grocery money back.
Yeah.
Home to their parents.
Yeah. Or paying tuition at the old college while you're still not even, after you transferred somewhere else.
After you transfer.
Doesn't make any sense, does it? Yeah. Leaving Walmart, start shopping at Trader Joe's, and Walmart gets to keep all your money still.
Yeah.
And they're still fighting against it. They're still
fighting.
Though they would get more money.
Because they want to keep the kid, pretend that they're educating the kid, and then get 100% of the money instead of 50% of the money. But it's worse than that, because you said three years of additional funding even after you leave.
Yeah, it's 3 years of additional funding, and I would say I've come to think that so much of this is about power. That so much of this is about who gets to call the shots, and because it's not that the people who are engaged in fighting this program really believe in the public school system. And case in point, Nashville's mayor, his kids go to the highest priced, like arguably the most prestigious private school in the city, maybe the state. So
it's on our map, you know that, Shaka?
It's in person too, right?
Yeah, it's in person. Yeah, it's in person.
keep all the public schools closed, though.
Right. So it's not like, he's not like some kind of crusader for public schools, right? He has become, at least by virtue of his position, he's become the crusader for keeping your kids in a school. Or another way to say that is he's become a crusader from keeping his kids separate from those kids, from your kids. And I just think a lot of parents find that to be pretty hypocritical. Not because they judge him on where he sends his kids, but like, don't climb the ladder and then pull it up behind you before anybody else gets a chance.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, all of us are cool with every single family seeking out whatever educational alternative works best for their children. I mean, we're all for that, but yeah, don't fight against others from having that same kind of opportunity. And so, yeah, Matthew just shared in the chat the Educational Freedom Institute school choice hypocrisy map, and we have one for Tennessee. And I think, the Nashville mayor is on the map here in this place in the past year, I think. What else is going in Tennessee, and what's kind of like the feel on the ground with how parents are feeling about school choice? I know AFC sent out that nationwide polling, finding that support for school choice has just jumped in a few months, and partially because of the lack of response from the public sector to the pandemic and lack of in-person options. But are you kind of seeing that kind of momentum on the ground in Tennessee as well?
Yeah, I think so. And I think a big sort of question mark, but we'll know here in a few months. But one of the things I'll be really interested to see is how many of the families who left the system don't return, don't come back. And that's going to be really interesting to see. And I mean, in some of our districts, I mean, I can pull some of this up. I mean, these numbers are somewhat dated because they're from November, so I don't know what the updated numbers are. But you've got districts with double digit that are down. I got a district here, Benton County, down 10% enrollment. 10% when you multiply by 10,000 kids, right? Those numbers, 10,000 kids or dollars. This is real money. Cheatham County down 11.5%. Let's see, Davidson down. That's Nashville. Says it's only down 4%. That's 3,600 kids, though.
It would be interesting to do kind of a correlation between are they open for in-person instruction and how many students have you lost. I think Wisconsin is the only state that I've seen where they've done a regression on this, and they did find that the virtual school districts are losing a higher proportion of students on average.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I also think, and here's where the rubber is going to meet the road, and you guys may have some ideas for how to track this, but I will say I know of families who filled out the form to disenroll their student back in the summertime. They are still receiving text messages from the district reminding them, hey, Shaka, don't forget, so-and-so needs to log on. Blah, blah,
so they're
blah.
Still enrolled.
They are still enrolled. And I just think that is, I think there are a lot of districts, right? Because this is proof problem. There are a lot of districts, I fear, who have been remote, who are getting really cute with, counting students who again, and for some students, it is legitimately a problem because of access. Like technology is a mess. We have a lot of rural areas in Tennessee. We're working on broadband access, but we got a lot of places where it doesn't, like, you can't log on to a Zoom and do that reliably. But in Nashville, for the people that I'm thinking of, their kid, this isn't a truancy issue. This isn't that they skipped a day or whatever. This is that they are being counted, even though I know that they are either being homeschooled or they are attending a private school. I'm thinking of 2 families right now, and that's the case.
They filled out the paperwork to unenroll their kids.
100%.
Still getting.
Wow.
I mean, the school district has a strong incentive to keep them on the books, but yeah, how do you prove?
That's right.
That? Besides, here I got the text message and
the hypocrisy of this is that what happens if a family tries to claim attendance in a district that they don't go to, right? They go to jail.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, but hey, but public schools take all comers. They educate all students. Shaka, what are you talking about? People go to jail. What are you talking about?
Not only do they take all comers, they take kids who don't even want to be there. Apparently, yeah.
So that's interesting. That those are the 2 examples you give: private school and homeschool. And here's why: because depending on what state you live in, some states require just regulatory measures that they put in place where they require that you use a certain student information system, like Power School or Infinite Campus. Parents know some of these names. Where in most states that I'm aware of anyway, private schools aren't required to use that same SIS, that same student information system. And why that's important in this regard is because the State Department of Education would catch that as an exception. Wait a second, student A is enrolled at this district school, and they're reporting them, but student A is also enrolled at this charter school or this private school that we required to use. But see, I don't think that's the case. Otherwise, they would catch them. That's where they're using that. They're using that. It's not.
I mean, in the legal context, we would call that double billing. Right?
There you go.
You call that double billing. Like you're not allowed if I'm traveling, and this work is travel for work that I'm doing on behalf of Corey. But while I'm on the flight, I do work for Matthew. I'm not able to count the same 2 hours of time for both. Right.
Right.
Yep.
It's double billing. But that's what may be happening. You may have a student who's being double counted, and that means as a taxpayer, it means that you're paying for a student who's not there. It means if you're a district that's in person, it means that you should actually be receiving more money per pupil. Like there's a cost, there's an amount that's being shifted. But I also think and this would frustrate me again if I was an educator or someone else in the public school district trying to do the right thing. If the data you're getting is unreliable, then you don't know how to best serve the students that you actually have, right? Yeah. So you're telling me that I might be the teacher who's like nonstop sending text messages trying to get this kid to log on because somebody at central office didn't alert me to the fact that kid is not even part of our district anymore. They're attending, whatever, school down the street. Like, why? Now you're wasting my time as the educator. And so it's just bad news.
It is.
So I want to share one of these videos before we get off from this. It's like a 14-minute video from AFC I put into the chat, which is better than normal. But here, you did have a lot of these interviews with different parents. So I'm just going to feature one right now. It's a 30-second video. Stay tuned.
I do think that this pandemic gives us an opportunity to go for something better than normal. I think that we have a chance to really take a look at the different systems that we have in place and see where they're falling short, where they can be improved upon easily, and where we have a little bit of a journey in front of us. But again, we can do it if we really put our minds to taking it to task.
Hyped. Whew.
Yeah, thank you.
I put the link to the full video into the chat again. But yeah, there's tons of these videos of parent testimony. And then Shaka, of course, bringing the heat, making these arguments on the video as well. Got me really excited, checking them out as well. So make sure you guys check out the video. Any last words, Shaka, of, what do you want people to take from this conversation? What should parents do right now?
Yeah. Well, I mean, first, let me just again say thanks for letting me come on and chop it up for a little bit with you guys. It's been great. So yeah, and then plug in the website. It's Better Than Normal Education. I know it's kind of a mouthful, but what are you gonna do? BetterThanNormalEducation.com. So one of the things that we think is really cool about the site, and you can do this from your mobile or from the regular site, but you'll see there's a place where you can share your idea. So if you're a parent in particular, and you've seen some things work, you see that button there, the share your idea. You can share your idea via text. Like if you've got something that you think would make the system work better for you, or you can do a video. You can upload a video, like share it with us. Give us whatever, 20 seconds from your phone and say, hey, you know what would make this better is if we blah, blah, blah. Because, I mean, listen, when I was, I'll speak personally here, and I'm sure this is not a problem that either one of you guys had, but when I was younger, I thought that my ideas were so good that everybody should listen to them. I'd like to think that I've got more humility now and appreciate that I don't have all the good ideas, and all the ideas I have are not good either, right? Both those are true. So we really want to hear from other people. Like, come to us with your ideas. Like, I don't know what's going to work best in Indiana. I don't know what's a cool idea for how to make career and technical education, in Nebraska work, or what's going to make school better than normal for English language learners in South Florida. So if you've got ideas about that stuff, we'd love for you to share them, and we'll be featuring those on the website over time. So we think that that's a great way. We hope it's a great way to kind of crowdsource some ideas as well from the people who should be at the front of the line, and that's parents.
That's cool.
All right. Yeah, excellent. Thank you, Shaka. And yeah, everybody go check out this website, betterthannormaleducation.com. And share your feedback, and I put it into the chat so everybody can go check it out. But thank you so much for joining us, Shaka. We had a great time with you.
Yeah, this is great. Really appreciate it, guys, and thanks so much.
Thanks,
excellent.
Shaka.
And thank you, everybody in the audience, for another episode of the Educational Freedom Institute podcast.